We're going to be in Orchot Tzaddikim. Please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, hit the bell for the notifications. That way, if I get to 1,000 members, again, 1,000 people, I start getting paid for this. We're at 110. You too can join up. Get your friends. Get everybody. Join, listen, have a good time. Okay. We're on page 14. We're at the last 3 words. It says, okay, we're talking about going higher and higher in spirituality. Remember, we were talking about last week that when it comes to spirituality, we went to apparently a whole 10-minute discussion, which I wasn't planning on doing. But okay. But it's the bottom line is spirituality is what our soul wants as compared to our physical body, which just wants what we all want, our comfort and money. That's what we will always strive for. When it comes to spirituality, we're not always going to push it. And he's saying you should. Yeah.
So spirituality, in other words, in how we relate to God and doing what God wants to expect of us, instead of worrying about the worldly thing, per se.
Correct. Well, worrying about the world, again, I don't want to get too far afield in this, but worrying about the world is a waste of my time. Yeah. Because whatever going to happen is going to happen. I'm not saying people should not vote. I believe people should vote. People should get involved in those sort of things. But again, to worry about whether or not we have Michigan is in the Congress once they're elected,
drive yourself nuts.
Right, it's just not worth it anymore. I nearly swore off of all internet because I couldn't stand what I was reading from our freshmen in the Congress, and it was disgusting to me. It was just pushing the limit, and I'm normally a very nonchalant guy when it comes to that, but when I was just losing it, and I said to my wife, I'm getting angry. I can't watch this stuff anymore. I'll watch every single presidential State of the Union. I have no problem with that, but when it comes to the stupidity that I'm hearing from our Congress people, it's just like, I can't do it.
There's a balance too, don't you think? Because we should hold them accountable.
Yes. No. Again, I think that I think we have to know what it is and use our vote. That's what I'm saying. We definitely have to be involved. But when it comes to the stupidity and the the talking heads and all these things, churn it off. I mean, you know how you hold. Leave me alone. I don't need Glenn Beck to tell me, and I don't need Diane Reeves to tell me to use those two talk show people. I don't need to read the Wall Street Journal. I don't need to read these things to get everybody's comments on what everybody thinks about these particular things. Yeah. And you had, I'll just go one more political garbage. When you had the newly elected, she's a Muslim woman who was, what's her name? Omar, who gave the anti-Semitic tweet. Yeah. And no, I understand. I understand. I'm not arguing. But what happened was, I was really, truly happy to see that my friends on the extreme left were condemning her. Yeah. And I said, great. And Pelosi condemned her. Yeah. I said, thank God there's still a moral compass in the system that you come out and condemn. Of course, for her, it probably worked against her because she was saying the Jews run the world, and here she had to apologize for that because there was so much pressure. So I'm sure in her mind she's verified. Oh, it's true.
The compass was pressured.
Right. No. Again. And you know what? Is if that I don't mind that sort of a pressure.
That's where that speaking.
Correct. That's correct.
Energy goes in.
Correct, and that's what I'm saying. But I'm not. But to waste my time on that.
Yeah. Of every comment.
Right. It's just leave me alone. So that's what I'm saying. You lose your spirituality. You just get angry, and anger is never good. So and you can't do anything about it. The only thing you can do. But I'm saying the only thing after that you can do is to vote them out and have a good day. You had a nice 2 years. Have a good day. Bye-bye. And can we not pay you for the rest of your life? Okay, that sort of thing. But of course we will. So okay. So that's what I mean by spirituality. When I really delve into that, and I start saying, what does Hashem want from me? Yeah. And I have to. He's going to go through the different traits that we have in order to serve God. There's nothing that we have that we can't serve God with, and that's what I really want to push today to get try to get through certainly the introduction, and I don't know if we will because it's a very long introduction. So let's go. So it says, David longed for the attainment of the good of the world to come when he said, how abundant is your goodness. And again, let's just go through it. That you have stored away for those who fear you. Again, fearing is having awe. Not that I'm afraid of punishment per se, but I have respect. And if I have respect, that's the fear we're always talking about. And they will enjoy the fatness of your house, and you will have them drink of the river of your pleasures. And this level will only be reached by one who is worthy of it, as is written, who will live in your tent? Who will dwell in your holy mountain? He who walks in innocence and acts with righteousness. And the rest of the matter is written there. So he explains, the Radak is in number 32. He quotes the Radak to say that the world is souls, which is the house of Hashem. It is a place where the righteous will attain knowledge of Hashem, which is good, which is a good that is not followed by a bad, and a satiation which is not followed by a hunger. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when we're saying who will live in your tent. Okay, so now as we have mentioned, and now that we have mentioned man's superior state, it befits us to explain his nobility and his faults, his good and his evil, until there emerges before the man of intelligence the straight road by which he will be able to reach the great king's court, so that his soul will choose with all its might the best and most select in every trait, and he will throw away the waste and take the fine flour. Okay, so what is he saying here? The fine flour is our proper actions, and the waste is that which is not. Okay, he says, the undesirable. Fine, I just said that. Good. So how so? How do you do this? So one man is wrathful and always angry, and another even-tempered and never angry. You have two people. Or if he is angry, it's only for very negligible over a period of many years. One man is exceedingly proud, and the other exceedingly humble. One man is lustful, his lust never being satiated, and another exceedingly pure-hearted, not desiring even the things that the body needs. These are not good, by the way. Again, he's going for extremes. We were talking about political extremes. Well, when it comes to to our soul, we also have extremes, and our behaviors. We have extremes. Extreme is never good. Maimonides says it should be the middle road. Everything should be in the middle, because we are a compilation of everything. There's no question about that. And you need both sides. But I can't go to one extreme or the other. The only thing that we want to say, that Rambam Maimonides wants to say you should go to the extreme sometimes, is humility. That will say you should. But again, humility doesn't mean that I have to let people walk all over me. Right, it doesn't mean being a mouse. Humility is Moses. Moses was the most humble man, it says. He wasn't a shy guy. Okay, he was talking to God. He was telling people off. He was doing things. He went to Pharaoh. That's not a shy guy saying, "Who am I to talk to you?" Blah, blah, blah. He said that to God. When it comes to Pharaoh, he says, "Let the people go." It's very matter of fact, So it's not the same thing. So he says, one man is expensive of temperament, another unsatisfied with all the wealth in this world, as it is written, he who loves money will not be satiated with money. Okay, and that he says, here in 35, here Shlomo Melech describes two types of individuals, both of whom derive no benefit from their wealth. One is a person who toils all of his life to accumulate more and more wealth, and because of his great love of money, never spends any of it. That was McDuck. Remember Scrooge McDuck. Okay? Right. Loved money, didn't want to spend it. There was also some other character that I forget in the books. That was always the salt mines of money. I forget who it was. Scrooge. Scrooge himself?
Oh, the actual story of Scrooge. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, there you go.
Right.
The second person is the one who, because of his love of acquisitions, spends every penny on them, but cannot maintain them properly due to lack of funds. He gets you like a car, you get a car, but it's not just any car. You get the most expensive car. The problem is you can't afford the car. Okay, well, the best thing is when you get these cars that take premium gas, only premium, No, normally, whenever I was driving cars that would always take the garbage gas. You go to $1.87 to whatever they had to pay. Suddenly, I get a car that only. Sometimes I get a car that only takes premium.
Really, you got to put premium.
You have to put premium in that car. Otherwise, it doesn't move. And you're thinking, oh my God! Now
you should have thought twice about taking it.
No. Both Hashem, the car runs beautifully, but on the highway, I get great mileage. Around here, it's meant for performance. Around here, it says, "Are you kidding me? You want to start me up? It's going to cost you $20 just to start me up." Okay. But it's but that's what you think about that when you have. I went online to find out, do you really need to put premium gas in? And everybody's saying yes because it ruins the stuff. And so somebody wrote down, if you can't afford the gas, you shouldn't have the car. And that was like a slap across the face. But really, that's what it is. So that's what he's saying. Some people love possessions, and they're going to spend all the money. They're making, and by the way, if you think about all these people who are young people, why they're making $80,000 a year, but they have no money. Why? Because they spend their $80,000.
The first house that we went shopping where we bought, I remember the real estate agent that was taking us around. I was asking him how big a house he thought we could afford. He says, "Well, you have to, know what your budget is." He says, "But don't buy a house that's so expensive that you become house poor, that you can't afford to furnish it and maintain it and so forth." Yeah.
Right. So they say that you should do 1 week's salary for the house. That used to be the thing. Yeah. But I'm just saying, that's why people are broke today, because they love their possessions. And that's the second thing. The second person loves them, but both in the end lose. The first one never benefits from his money, never benefits from what his money could buy, because he wants to just put in his under his mattress or in his bank account. That's it. The second loses that which he acquires through his money. So again, both of them are never satisfied. That's how he's looking at it. Okay, and another is of constricted spirit, for whom even a bit suffices, and he does not rush to obtain all of his needs. He needs the stuff, but he doesn't want to get it because he doesn't want to use the money. Okay, my father compared that to a person who, you have a fire. You can either be outside the house looking at the fire, in other words, no warmth, or you can be warmed by the fire. He said that's what money is. Money is the fire. You have to tend it, but it's there to be used. It's not there to just look at. So that was his way of looking at this. So one man afflicts himself with hunger and goes begging, consuming not even a penny's worth of his own without dire distress, and another who cautiously wastes his money. And along the same lines, the other traits are found, such as cheerfulness and depression, stinginess and generosity, cruelty and mercy, cowardliness and courage, and the like. Yeah. Among these traits, there are those possessed by a man from the beginning of his creation, according to his bodily nature, and there are those toward which one's nature is inclined, and which he is apt to adopt more quickly than others. By the way, here we have the classical thing of what I'm born with versus the environment. Innate nature versus nurture. Thank you. That's what we have here, where some things are nature, some things are nurture, and you have to look at both. Okay, and there are those traits which one does not possess from birth, but learn from others, which is what we just said. Okay, and so, or that which he grows inclined to because of some thought that has arisen in his heart. In other words, he saw something he wants, and then he's going to try to manufacture those reasons in order to get to that. So, so he brings down here, I'm not going to go through the whole note for you, but he brings down in note 36 that you have Rebecca. Rebecca is the daughter of a wicked father, Bethuel, and has a wicked brother, Lavan, and comes from a wicked place. Okay, and yet she marries Isaac, Yitzchak, and before that she was already righteous. So the Torah is testifying that here she comes from all the negatives in the world, yet she becomes, and yet she was a righteous person. So that's his point. You can either fall into their group and join them, or you can be like Rebecca, and get out of that. That's what you have to look at. But it still goes to environment, nature versus nurture. Okay. So it may be that he heard that a certain trait is of value to him and worthy of pursuit, and he practiced it until it becomes implanted in his heart. Now, this is also something we all like to do, right? We hear we need to do something, so we train ourselves. You say you have to exercise. Okay, the best way to exercise is to do it every day. It becomes the routine. So then when it becomes routine, it becomes part of you. And then the odds are, if you can go for a month, that's usually what it is, if you can go for a month, the odds are you'll stay with it. If you don't go the month, the odds are you'll fall. You won't do it. And then you'll think, I used to do it. I remember the days when I used to, and I was blah, blah, blah. But really, it's an amazing thing that we get used to it. Our body wants that. And when we don't exercise, by the way, if you exercise, how long have you been exercising already?
Only a couple of weeks.
Okay. So when you your wife will testify that with me. We'll testify together. Okay. When you exercise for like I said, a month or so, and suddenly you feel it, and your body is saying, no, kick in. I need you to exercise again, right?
Because I had surgery a month ago.
Right.
And so I have to wait. And, my body's yelling at me.
Right. It's such to her, and once you exercise, the body gets used to it again and says, I love this. Because, especially now, by the way, with the crazy weather we're having, people get depressed now. Mm-hmm. And what happens is when you exercise, it releases the endorphins, and that makes you happy. So it really has a lot of benefits that people don't think about. But again, your body starts to want that. So same thing with your soul. The more that you exercise your soul in heavenly pursuits and serving the Torah, so the more you're going to want it. And when you don't do it, you're going to feel something missing. Now you have to read what's going on there, but you have to figure that out. Okay, so there is a trait that must be exhibited often, and there is a trait which must be exhibited sparingly. Now, here's what I loved about this. When I was reading the introduction, this brings it all into perspective. This is analogous to someone cooking a dish and eating vegetables and meat, water, salt, and pepper. He must use all of the ingredients by measure, a little of one and a lot of the other. If he limits the meat, the dish will be too thin. If he is overgenerous with salt, it will be too salty to eat. The same applies to the other ingredients. If he uses little where much is needed, or where little is needed, or much where little is needed, the dish will be spoiled. But the expert who takes the right measure of each ingredient will produce a dish that is pleasant and tasty to those who eat it. The same is true of character traits. There are those which must be adopted to a large measure, such as humility, shame, and the like, and those which must be adopted only sparingly, such as pride, audacity, and harshness. Again, these are not things you should say, no, I will never do this. There are times when they become necessary. Okay? Therefore, a man must weigh all of his traits on the balance scale of understanding to use each trait in its proper amount. He must be careful not to hold back on those traits which he requires in large measure, and not to use too much of those which he requires in small measure. In this way, he will attain the ultimate good. And in his gray box, he gives you a story of quality control when he was in a factory. Again, you surely go through these notes. They're a lot of fun. Well, again, I'm summarizing.
Oh, the gray notes are the current editor of the book?
Yes. Both notes, by the way, are his, but the gray one is the cute little stories he'll give you. Okay, that's what I've noticed.
Okay.
But he was in a factory, and he was for kosher, and he was supervising, and he saw it's a Coke factory or something, or they were making some not Coke, they were making drinks, fine. So he saw the inspector or whoever, the lab guy were going in and grabbing some of the cans off the line. You have thousands of cans. He's just grabbing them indiscriminately, and he walks with them to his lab, and he's checking everything out. So the rabbi said to him, this rabbi said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Quality control, Rabbi, quality control. We have to make sure everything is proper here, the taste, everything else, the sugar content." And so he said, he learned from that. Look at that. If you have to worry so much about a can of soda, how much more do we have to worry about quality control of our soul? Again, these notes are well worth reading. They're a lot of fun. Okay. She says, "No one understand that one who by nature inclines to an evil trait or has become habituated to such a trait and does not take it upon himself to retract from it, but constantly strengthens himself in it, this will bring him to despise and abhor positive traits. Because I'm conditioning myself to do the negative, so I'm not going to want to do the positive." And that's what he's saying. He says, "And just as pain and distress and afflictions indicate bodily illness, so evil traits indicate sickness of the soul. And just as to people who are physically ill, bitter tastes sweet, and sweet bitter, there are those sick people who desire food that is not good for them, and they hate food that is good for them, all according to the magnitude of the illness. So people who are spiritually ill desire and love bad traits, hate the way of good, and are lazy to go in his path, it being overly heavy to them because of their illness." And so as Isaiah spoken to these people, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who take darkness for light and light for darkness, who take bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." So he says, again, if you go to 39, it refers to people whose actions are sinful and will be met with punishment, although they maintain that all will be sweet and good. The Radak, one of the commentaries, says that these sinners are like people who are fooled by what they see and by what they taste. They do not differentiate intellectually between good and bad, good and evil. Ma'arikra, another commentator, explains that this refers to people who say to the wicked who are successful in this world, "You are good," and to the poor they say, "You are evil." When light will shine upon the righteous, however, it will be dark for the wicked and bright for the poor. So that's, again, we have to know what we're looking at. If you're sick, and by the way, what happens when you're sick? What do you normally do? If physically sick? Go to the doctor. So he's going to suggest later on that when you're spiritually sick, you go to the spiritual doctor. The problem is, well, there's two problems. One problem is when we're sick, we don't necessarily call the doctor right away. We usually wait a long time. Either because we don't want to spend the insurance money, we don't want to.
If it's a low level illness, I'll wait it out and see.
I'll wait it out. You normally don't want to go to the doctor anyway. It's a pain in the neck. You have to make an appointment and so on and so forth. Okay, but I think a lot of it is also we don't want insurance to shoot up. We don't want all that stuff. We don't want to pay the copays. We just don't want that stuff. And we also don't want to hear about it. We know he's going to. Look how prejudiced I say he. Okay. We know that the doctor is going to say around flu season, you have the flu. Here's either amoxicillin or something else, or it's just a viral and you can't do anything about it. Live with it. Okay. So most of us know that's going to happen. We don't go. And we just limp along. Well, that's what happens spiritually. We all we'll figure this out. I'm not happy. I'm depressed, whatever. I'll figure out, it must be the sun's not out. It must be this, must be that. Or the boss is bothering me, or whatever. So we will chalk it up to other reasons, but we'll never really check it out. We'll never do the self-analysis, which goes back to the other books we've been dealing with for many years. But it's all a matter of self-analysis and then realizing when I need help. When will it heal itself? And when do I need to get guidance? That's, again, we're going to come to that, but I'm giving you a heads up on that. Okay, about them it is said, who forsakes the path of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness. What is the healing process, of the healing sick, of the spiritually sick. Let them go to the wise, the healer of souls, who will heal them through their teachings until they return to the ways of the good. And those who recognize your evil traits and do not go to the wise to be healed, of them Shlomo, King Solomon, said, skeptics scorn wisdom and discipline. Now the problem is we don't know who to go to today. Okay, who is your spiritual doctor? You want to say, "Shit, Rabbi," I'm not a doctor that way, but you can give advice, but I can't zero in. I can give global advice, right? What he's saying is there were people who could listen to you and could zone right in. Now, there are supposedly some people out there, but they're not well known, and that's the danger. If you're not well known, so then I'm putting my faith, quote unquote, faith in you, and I could be getting the wrong advice. And you just may want to get my, $18, whatever you want to get, or whatever your purpose is for giving me the advice. But that's why in his day, it may have been more...
What, 500 years ago we figured?
1800s, no, 1800s. 1500s, right.
About 5. And we don't... So
it could have been more people were involved in this, which would make sense, but...
Today, a religiously connected person who would be interested in finding out spiritual things anyway, and spiritual healings, would go to his rabbi or his clergy first, I would presume, and then... I've even heard of certain highly respected rabbis in New York that question you about what's bothering exactly this and they can come up with certain paths to follow and give you. You have to know the right advice.
Correct. So there are also books on this that we have. I forget what I remember reading it. But I forget the name of it, but it was a book based upon that. If you have a sore throat, what are the possible reasons for that? Remember, there's a concept, there's a belief that every physical malady that we have is based upon our spiritual deficiencies. And God is just trying to give us a signal. So, the famous one is if you have a sore throat, it means you're speaking Lashon Hara. Okay, you have to guard your speech. Something like that. If you're, somebody's leg hurt one time. So the story was that the rabbi said to him, because you're not using your legs to do mitzvot, you're not going to do, you're not doing kindness with them. You're not. So one person actually living here said to me that his legs hurt, and I said, why? What was going on? Because he used to run. Now he's passed away, but he used to run, and he was an avid runner. So I said to him, let me ask something. When you went to synagogue this past Saturday, did you drive or did you walk? He said, I drove. I said, why? You run all around this place. What's the big deal to walk? Walk. I know you're not keeping the Sabbath, but it doesn't matter. You're going to a place, so walk there. He said, I never thought about it. He walked, and he did walk the next time. And then he said to me, you know what? Your advice worked. My legs don't bother me anymore. There you go. Okay. So was it really that? I have no idea. I'm not going to sound a miracle man here. But I got that from reading these books that say that it's all based upon what we miss out spiritually. God's giving us the wake-up call. And all we have to do is figure that out. So I forget what is the name of the book.
A lot of this could be psychology too, which I in my mind anyway, ties in with certain spiritual things.
Could be. But again, you have to go to somebody who's going to be tied into that. So you had one person. You said Rabbi Brog. Rabbi Brog was that sort of a guy. Remember we had him here for. Tish B'Av. Yeah. So he was of that type that you would tell him something, and he could focus in on what was the spiritual malady, or he could give you some, based upon the readings, what you should check out. Okay, that he can guarantee it, but that was his story.
We had psychology thousands of years before the rest of the world.
Well, that's true.
A lot of psychosomatic problems, like a person that has indigestion problems or has high blood pressure, but they're angry all the time.
But the question would be,
what came first?
Right. The question has to be, why you're angry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's causing your anger?
Yeah.
And again, that's a spiritual defect.
But it's right what we're talking
right.
about.
So that's what he was saying. You have to go
this balance.
Correct. So you'd have to go to find a teacher who is going to be able to listen and help you out. By the way, when you go to a doctor, what does the best doctor do? Ask questions and listen.
They could sign up for your program.
They could, and they'd probably be better doctors. But really, if a doctor listens to you more than talks at you, the odds are he or she is going to figure out what's going on. Most of the doctors I've dealt with, by and far, do not listen. They've seen the case 1,000 times, and they make a decision. I'll never forget one guy. I had my gallbladder taken out years before that, and I was having a stomach problem, a pain. No, it wasn't stomach problem, pain. And so I went to the doctor. It was already gone because they waited so long to see me. But then now I had to fill out the charts too for him. You had to fill out those forms. Fine. And I put down, gallbladder not here anymore, put it down. So he said to me when he was listening to what I said, he said, "Oh, I know it's your gallbladder." So I looked at the doctor, I said, "Guess again." Guess again. He looked at me, he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, so then I told him off. I said, "If you would have read that form you made me fill out, you would have seen that I had my gallbladder taken out 5 years ago, and unless I'm wrong, and I don't think I am, they don't grow back." So, guess again.
Which is very scary to say to the doctor, guess again.
Yeah,
We're paying this money, we're guessing.
But that's the point. They don't listen. They don't read. They don't do by the way, he could have just been having an off day. He was a really nice guy. We became friends. But I always told him when he would say something wrong, I would say, "Guess again." So he'd say, "What? You have that out too?" "No, I didn't have that out, but I know it's not that." Leave me alone. But like I said, that's really the main thing. And I have to listen to what's going on, and then I have to say, okay, based upon what you're telling me, this possibly could be what's going on. What do you say about that? That would be the more spiritual advice, because I don't know, unless I'm really a makubal, or somebody who has that sort of connection to God, that the odds are I'm not going to tell you the actual cause. If I am of that level of makubal, again, somebody who's received the tradition, and that's very few people out there, then they supposedly could tell you exactly what you're doing.
Just by looking at you?
Listen, looking at you, talking to you, and they can zero in, and you just look at them and say, "Oh my God," because you know they're right. You know they're right. When you hear it, you say, it's like when your parents say something, you say, "Yeah, okay. No." But it's really they get to the heart of it, and it's an amazing thing when you see it. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it. Okay. So it says, there are many people who desire to take hold of the way of good, but who do not know what is good for them, who think every day about attaining higher levels, but who never attain them. This is attributable to two factors. One, because they do not recognize their faults and don't differentiate between their disgraceful ways. This type of person can be compared to Reuven searching for Shimon, whom he doesn't recognize. You ever look for somebody who didn't know what they look like?
Yeah.
Yeah? When?
You can't.
Oh, no, you're wrong. I was sitting on a park bench in New York. True story. Sitting on a park bench in New York on Shabbos, on Saturday. It was a nice, beautiful day. I just happened to sit down on the bench. And a woman comes over to me and says, "Are you blank?" Because she didn't know she was meeting somebody. It was a date. And I looked at her. I said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not. Do you mind if I sit down anyway?" I said, "Go ahead, sit down. It's a free bench." She starts talking to me. I said, "Excuse me, I'm married." I'm married. Stop. She went to stop. She said I was single. Apparently, those benches were for the single people. I didn't know that.
They have a road under there.
Right, for singles only. So, and then the guy came finally to take her away. But she said, "I like you." I said, "Again, ma'am, it's cool, but I'm married. I'm happily married. Thank you."
A little late.
Right. But again, she didn't know what she was looking for. So that's the point. So that's Reuven searching for Shimon. He doesn't know what he's looking for. So even if he seeks him the whole day, he will not find him, though he fully expects to. Oh. I'm going to find him sooner or later, but I don't know who he is. Okay, fine. Then he may even pass him several times, but he does not recognize him. So it is with this kind of man. Though he thinks always of what to do and seeks the good deed, he will not find it because he does not recognize his fault. And that's, he says, as he gives it again the great part. As the saying goes, man needs three things to survive in this world: food, shelter, and someone to blame. And there is another kind of man who recognizes evil traits and begins to rid himself of them and adopt good ones. But he too will never attain the straight path, being lazy in his search for these good traits. He is compared to Reuven's seeking Shimon and being able to recognize him, yet not finding him because he does not seek him properly. It is written regarding this: the tongue of the righteous person is of the choicest silver. This verse is to be understood as follows: if one comes to pay a creditor silver by weight, and the latter is not aware of the truth of the weights or the accuracy of the scales, or if he is aware of all this, but he is not an expert in evaluating silver, such a man is prone to suffer a loss in the matter of weight or in the discrimination of the silver. For sometimes he will reject the silver and take the waste matter, and other times he will take less than the weight due him, either taking the light weight or placing the silver in the heavy balance on the scales. In all of these cases, he will end up in error. Or even if he is an expert in silver and in weight, if he does not watch carefully, it is possible that his silver will become mixed with waste matter. But if he is expert in all, in weight and silver, and in careful observation, he will be properly paid with pure silver and the full weight. For this reason, Shlomo, King Solomon, compared the tongue of the righteous one to choice silver. For the righteous man must recognize good and evil, and being expert in the value of every trait, he must properly observe and reflect upon them and exert himself physically and intellectually to abandon foolishness and to embrace understanding and remove a mixture of waste from them. Then his soul will be pure and refined for Hashem, as is written, when waste is removed from silver, there will come forth the vessel for the refiner. When the waste is removed, then the vessel will be refined. And there is another kind. Okay, so that's number one. If I have to get rid of all that stuff, again, I have to know what's wrong with me. So I have to do that, either ask somebody who's well-versed in this stuff so they can help me to identify my faults. And once that happens, I have to try to rid myself of those faults. And then I'm improving. Then I'm becoming like this guy with the silver, where I know what the silver is, I know the weights, I'm doing it the right, fine. So that's what he's looking for. If I don't go through that, I'm never going to improve. And again, the same. By the way, again, I go to the weight. I love picking on exercise because here, as a personal trainer, I always say I want to lose blank. I want to lose my belly fat, which will be with me till I die. Okay, because no matter what, it's just the way it is. I was fat when I was young. I'm fat now. It's going to always be here. I even no matter what I do. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's, but what happens is if I would actually go to a personal trainer and listen to what they're saying, the odds are I could have my six-pack really show. Okay. A real six-pack I could have instead of what I have. It's just hidden by the, no, it's underneath. It's in storage right now. It's in storage.
In the stone.
Storage. I don't want to get people jealous, so I don't want to be jealous of me. So I covered up him in a shield. Okay. But really, that's what it is. If I go to a personal trainer, I know how to build my muscles, and I do all that. Well, that's, again, what the spiritual guide is supposed to do. I can pinpoint, I can get you there, and I can bring you to the next level. Because that's what he's picking on. But I have to know what is wrong, what I'm doing, and so on and so forth. Okay. So he says, at one time he adheres to one form of behavior, and another he departs from this and adopts... and there's another kind of man whose behavior varies and is not fixed. At one time, he adheres to one form of behavior, and another, he departs from this form and adopts another, forever varying his behavior. He may be compared to one who wishes to go to a certain city, but does not know the paths nor recognize the roads leading to it. As a result, he is confused on the way, at one time taking one road for a distance and not finding the city, and then taking a different road for a distance, straying, returning, and not finding the city. About such a person, the sages have written, the toil of fools exhausts him. He does not know how to go to the city. He didn't have GPS. Okay? Therefore, one must pity those people who are sunk in meaningless vanities and teach them the righteousness of the weights and the justness of the scales. We must teach them how to evaluate the silver and what the straight ways are, so that a man will choose from the beginning the path that will bring him to a fresh and for a place where all good is to be found. And that is the fear of heaven, which is the purpose of all deeds. It is this question, and this question asked by Hashem to all men, as is written, what does Hashem, your God, ask of you? But to fear him, again, awe him, to have awe of him. And no deed is of much value without pure awe. I'm going to go for the awe here instead of fear. Thus, all men must be informed that one who wishes to attain worthy character traits must mix fear with each trait. For the fear or the awe of Hashem is a common bond among all of the traits. This may be compared to a strand which has been strung through the holes of pearls with a knot tied at its end to hold the pearls. There is no doubt that if the knot is cut, all the pearls will fall. And it is the same with the fear of Hashem. It secures all of the traits. And if you remove it, all the good traits will depart from you. Think about people who are religious. They're born, or whatever, they're brought up religious, and suddenly they go out, as we say, off the way. What happened? You gave up your the awe. Again, I'm not talking about fear as in I'm afraid I'm going to be punished, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the awe, you gave up the reverence of God. Once you throw that out, it falls apart. Because I no longer feel I have to do these things. I've rejected it for whatever reasons. I've rejected it. Okay? So, and he says, if you do not have good traits, you do not have Torah and mitzvot. Because all of the Torah hinges upon the perfection of one's traits. And we'll have to stop there.